Hey guys, welcome back to Unhinged, our opinion podcast.
Opinion podcast.
Got it right this time.
Thank God.
We have a packed schedule for today.
Packed schedule.
3 articles, a main, an op-ed, and a column by yours truly, Chris.
I wrote the column. I didn't write all of it.
What'd you say? You didn't write all of it?
I didn't write all of it.
Did you plagiarize?
Does having employees count as plagiarism?
Employees.
What are they called? Servants? Can I whip them?
Subordinates.
Oh, I guess. No, I feel like subordinates just sounds like very BDSM.
Yeah, because whip them doesn't sound like that.
Well, I mean, not whip them sexually. I'm not aroused when I'm whipping them, so it doesn't count.
Okay, we're done with this conversation. We're going to start with our main, written by
Emily?
no one.
I forgot the byline. Yep.
There's no byline.
Yep.
That's horrible.
Right?
Horrible,
I've never
horrible
forgotten
job.
a byline except for this singular. Yeah.
It's high time for Weed on Campus, discussing basically the impact that the new law, the legalization of marijuana for recreational use in California for individuals over the age of 21 as of January 1st, 2018, and what does that mean for our campus since we are a state campus, a public institution, even though it doesn't really feel that way sometimes.
No, we're a bubble. We're a private public institution.
We're a private public institution. What do you take from that? I don't really know how I feel because I'm not.
Well, we'll start with Emily's comments. What she was talking about was
Yeah.
that marijuana is more closely related in terms of its effects to alcohol than it is to cigarettes, and the policy
As in like impairment
as
rather
in,
than
impairment,
addiction.
like yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and like the health issues that are related are not similar to the smoking of like cigarettes. So what she was saying is that since these already legal substances have different policies, this policy can be different from the others, but maybe more similar to one than other. And she's arguing it's more similar to alcohol because it has more similar effects. So what she's saying is that even if you want to maintain an entirely smoke-free campus, you can't smoke weed on campus, you can't smoke cigarettes on campus, you should be able to consume marijuana in whatever form that you choose outside of that. That might be like edibles, infusions, oils if you, I don't know. There are other things, but I don't smoke weed because I'm a good kid. I was raised right. So I don't really know that much about like what other things exist other than edibles. And also she says like no vaping too. So yeah, vaping is just smoking if you're a pussy.
So there's 2 things to mention about this. Is first of all, kind of a disclaimer that since weed and marijuana is still legal through federal law, there's kind of no way that those policies would change for University of California campus. That's the first thing. And the second, I think that the point that she brings up is especially for medicinal marijuana users.
Yeah.
Marie-Jeanne, that's how we call it in France.
Wow.
So for those users, it's definitely like something that it's kind of like they got their hopes up. It's like, oh, it's like illegal in California now, but for some reason it's still not legal on campus, you know.
Mm-hmm.
I'm assuming it's like legal if you live outside of campus, right? It's just
If you're 21, yeah.
consuming it on campus property is what is still
It's like still like
prohibited.
taboo, yeah.
Okay.
What I was thinking when I was doing the edits on this like first draft was that even if it is like not like it's still taboo, it's still against the rules on campus, they shouldn't really have any means of like prosecuting this in terms of like actually going out and like actively enforcing this. Like they're not gonna like break down people's doors or something, and like half this campus smells like weed half the time anyway. So I'm imagining that's not gonna change, but I don't know if they're gonna change the way that they police this because it's going to be probably more common now because it's easier to get. I didn't know how policing would change, but I figured that, in my opinion, the school should not ramp up its policing of marijuana, even if it is still taboo and it might become more popular. Because like we still live in a state that has decided that they don't care about weed. And just because there's some like legal technicality, that shouldn't like yield some kind of like terrible result for people who use this, whether recreationally or medicinally, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, and the thing is, I mean, having lived on campus previous years, like you know that people who live on campus, who live in the dorms, as long as they kind of, don't do too much. Like,
they're not hotboxing their apartment.
Yeah, it's like as long as the RAs are either, you know, blissfully ignorant or are accepting of it, and you just don't cause a fuss. A lot of people just consuming, and a lot of people. I don't know if that's really true, but a few people at least, and like we're not really advocating for, you know, people to go outside and suddenly like smoke weed in the lawn in front of Galbraith Hall or something like that. Like that's not necessarily. It's just a question of being able to consume it in your apartment in your own privacy, and that's the point that she makes. And like you said, it's kind of the same thing for alcohol, the alcohol policies, where it's like it's allowed to,
but like do it in private.
Yeah, it's like do it in private as long as you're 21. It's like illegal in the sense that, you know, like just don't go outside and annoy everybody.
Yeah, don't be like reckless.
Yeah, and that's like it. In a sense, it should be the same thing. I don't think. Like the only reason I could see for someone to just get in trouble for it is if the RA like basically tells on them, and that's another thing. It's like if they feel compelled to do that, that's their right. They're the resident in charge basically. So,
but I mean, like realistically, this would be such a hard thing to police, especially if you do, if you like have some kind of marijuana and other forms other than smoking it, because smoke of marijuana is like really what gives it away because it's potent and it sticks to everything.
It's also a problem because of the way the fire alarms are working in the dorms. That's the one thing I can see against it, where it's like different from alcohol, like the actual smoking of it. But the consumption of it doesn't like really bother me in that sense. That it's like as long as you stay home and just don't know put yourself in danger or put others in danger, then it's fine.
Yeah. My general thesis is that stick to edibles and you won't get caught. Doesn't matter whether or not it's legal if you're just sitting in your room dissociating.
There you go.
Yeah.
That's the idea.
Yeah. Just play some music, order a pizza. Order pizza before you're high, though.
Yeah.
Yeah. That way it gets there when it, like, peaks and you're like, dude. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, this is pretty straightforward. I don't know if you have anything else to say about that, but...
I still think we should be able to have weed on campus. I think some, like, legal technicality is kind of, like, BS, but... I don't know. Sometimes I just want to get high and eat a pizza. So I'm biased.
But what if you're in public, though? Because that's, like, again...
Oh, well, yeah. If you're in public, you shouldn't really...
Oh, no, that's what I mean. I don't really care about what people do in private.
Yeah. We're not going to know anyway.
If it's not like a dangerous drug, if it's not, you know, heroin or any of those drugs, then it's like... Yeah. It's mostly harmless in that sense, and it's like it's the same thing. You know, you're not allowed to go outside with your bottle of whiskey, basically. So just don't go outside with whatever you're smoking or consuming. And that's just it.
Yeah, if you're going to, like, smoke a blunt outside, paint the bottom of it orange so people think it's a cigarette. Yeah.
But you're not allowed to smoke cigarettes on campus anyways.
Step out onto the curb.
Like everybody else.
That's what everyone did in ERC. You're not allowed to smoke, but then, like...
Yeah, right, everybody's just on the other side of the road of Hollywood Drive. Yeah, that's... I don't know if that's a good thing or bad thing, but that's another discussion.
It was a handy thing.
Was it?
Maybe. Okay. Well, take away from that. Stick to edibles and you're fine.
Basically, yeah.
Yeah.
Let's move on to the op-ed. I thought it was really interesting. There was a few comments about it during the meeting on Monday. Of people saying it sounded more like a political agenda than
well, it does get very like propaganda-y at the end because it's like, come to our events, join us on Facebook, join us, one of us.
So
but it does make some good points.
Yeah. So the premise of it is that January 18, 2018, there's a meeting by the Board of Regents. They're going to vote on another potential raise of the tuition increase. Basically, what the author is saying is, no, don't do that.
Don't, please, I'm poor.
So the big argument against it is obviously University of California is still supposed to be a public institution, which means that it should be accessible to others, and that it technically should be, tuition should be paid by the state, which was its intention when it was created, when it was funded. It obviously has changed a lot. I have a few numbers for you that I researched right before this podcast started.
Give me some numbers.
Because a lot of the argument against, I guess, our generation, people who like get out of college and complain about having to pay student loans, is like, oh, when I was your age, I worked full time and paid my way through college.
Yeah, but they got like $6 when $6 was worth like $20.
That's the thing. So 1980 tuition for UCSD is $300 per quarter, and minimum wage is $3.10. So to pay for your full tuition for a full quarter, you'd have to work 97 hours, which is a decent amount, but at the same time, you can work part-time over a full quarter and just pay for your tuition without taking out student loans. Now, I don't have the latest number. I think it increased, but in 2013, tuition was $11,160, and minimum wage has just been increased now to $11. That's 1,015 hours of work. That's 1,000% increase. That's 10 times more than 35 years ago. And that's the whole thing. That's the whole problem with the tuition increase for a lot of people, is that, a full-time job or even like 2 part-time jobs or whatever you have going on are just not enough to pay for college, regardless of how much you're getting paid, because we're getting paid mostly minimum wage for what we're doing because we don't have a college degree, and that's the whole point of trying to get a college degree. So that's for the numbers. Where the op-ed gets interesting is that it kind of explains how funding from the state has steadily been decreasing, and that the difference is now being paid by the students, in which it just basically explains the tuition increase.
So there's like Cal grants, which pay for some of people's tuition, but Cal grants went a lot further when tuition was obviously scaled down a lot, but also when tuition was more reflective of the amount that you got paid per hour and the amount that you have to pay yourself. So she starts to talk a lot about the high fee, high aid model, which says that as tuition increases, the state has to pay more. So instead of funding education properly, they just have the system where they funnel money in and then funnel it back out, and in a cycle like that. But because that the high aid part of that does not keep up with the high fee, the rest is paid for by students. So instead of having some kind of efficient system where the state funds education and then maybe students put in some as well, it's really more as the state schools need funding to run their schools, because they're obviously also subject to inflation, but then the aid does not match it, so the rest comes on to students.
And there's a few more elements to that, in that whatever money we pay for tuition also goes to salaries of high officials. And she does mention that there's kind of a well, that's nice, but there's been a few issues between the UC Board of Regents and the UC Office of the President in recent years. We've covered that last year. I think several $1 million that were being hidden or not used right, or there was a state investigation into I think it was the UCOP, the UCOP
budget.
The budget, and so it's just a global kind of distrust feeling. And when you add to that we're constantly being asked for more money, you kind of why do we have to pay? These people are still getting paid. These people are not necessarily following the law. It's just kind of it's overwhelming in that sense, because we just want to get an education in that sense. And at the same time, you understand in the economy, you understand that you have to pay for it, and that's just the way it is. We're not gonna, having free college tuition is it's kind of a pipe dream. But at the same time, it's we're still ready to fight against tuition hikes. And another thing that is pointed out in this op-ed is the lack of discussion, the lack of students being consulted on a regular basis. Of course, we have a student representative from all the different UC campuses that interact with either the different chancellors or even Janet Napolitano, and that go up to Sacramento and lobby. But that's just
we don't have the same lobbying power. Like when we say
Yeah.
lobbyists,
Yeah.
we think of like multinational.
Yeah,
like,
when I say lobbyist,
corporations.
it's like a third-year student that goes to
Yeah.
Sacramento and says like, by the way, we don't have money to pay for
Yeah.
tuition, and that's like that's good. Like I'm not saying
Yeah.
like don't do that, but at the same time, it's like yeah,
It's
but
not
are they
as
really gonna
impactful as,
listen?
Like, yeah.
Like if they raise the tuition, are you really gonna like break out and riot and everything? Not saying we should, but at the same time, like what backlash do they face when they
Yeah.
do that? You know?
It's like it's public like criticism that they face.
yeah,
But I mean, hasn't stopped them yet. So
it's kind of
I
interesting
wonder
because
if this is going through or not. I wonder.
it's kind of interesting. It goes back to that discussion we had about I think now it was like a month ago, but about the salaries of NGOs, ONGs, no, non-governmental ONGs, the charities. Sorry,
Oh, charities. Oh, okay, yeah.
like the salary, right?
Salary,
Because their
yeah.
salaries are being paid by donations, and
Mhm.
not saying like Earth's paying for tuition as donations, but like our tuition pays for the salaries, and when
Yeah.
you see chancellors that make like 400K a year,
Yeah.
and
When
stuff
we're
like
told
that.
we have to pay more to fund our own education,
Yeah,
but like
it's like-
chancellors are also getting kickbacks.
Yeah, and
Not
it's like
kickbacks.
the
per se,
professors are
but
not necessarily getting paid a lot.
Yeah.
The employees, student
yeah.
employees,
Workers are rioting because they're not
workers
paid
and
enough
employees,
for this.
they're not necessarily
given
even
benefits.
getting paid
This
well.
is going like to salaries.
Yeah,
and things
and
like
it's
that.
like so. This is what our tuition is paying for basically because we're a state like institution.
Because chancellors can't just live on 100,000. Like that's like well off in America. That's like
not-
upper
that's
middle
not
class.
enough. Yeah, and it's not like they're paying for their own like trips and everything. Like,
yeah, and like
I'm pretty sure the
if you have
trips are being
anything
paid for.
board-funded- yeah,
So one of the big like takeaway from this is the regions have to understand that their job isn't just to balance a budget,
Yeah.
which they're already pretty much not doing a great job at because
Yeah.
of all the money that's being
hidden.
somewhere.
Yeah,
But they also have to advocate for the students to the state.
Yeah.
And I have to say the state is still probably doing a better job than in other states to help students.
I mean, yeah, but like if New York is one of the rivals to California in terms of like economic success.
Yeah.
Like New York and California are like economic drivers in this country. If New York can manage to give some people like even just community college education, California should also be able to do that.
Yeah, and to prevent an increase in tuition, they needed 4% increase in 4% of the budget from the state, and the state is only giving 3.1%, and
So the 0.9%
is us
is
basically.
Yeah.
Is
me and
that
Marcus.
is
We're paying
that
for your
is that
tuition.
tuition increase that's gonna come soon? So be ready for that if you want to get involved. Fund the UC on Facebook. I mean, yeah.
Get involved. They're good.
Get
program,
involved.
especially if you're a UC student.
Contact
It's useful.
AS because they should be doing something too. Let's move on to the
The column, the beautiful, wonderful, perfectly written column.
written by our resident. What can I call you? I don't know. I'll think about something.
Wow. I feel like this is about
I'll
to
let
get really
you. I'll let
homophobic
you.
really fast.
No,
Okay.
no. I'll let you. I'll let you tell us about it.
Well, this column is written by me. My name is Chris. I don't know if we did introductions. Did we do introductions?
I introduced myself.
Wow. This really did get homophobic very fast.
No, I said, and by yours truly, Chris, and then you said, yeah, I wrote all of it with the help of others. Yeah. So
Anyway.
it was apparently written. All of it was apparently written by Chris, but in truth, it's,
I inspired all of it.
mm,
I didn't inspire any of it. I guess I inspired my own because I wrote it, but still. Anyway,
Alright,
my
go
column
ahead.
is about the like tenuous history that trans people have had with feminism. And so my general thesis is that trans people have historically been kind of left behind in the progression of feminism. And I focus specifically on the second wave of feminism when these particular discussions really started to get to like a climax point where whether or not trans people have a place in feminism became more of a hot topic. And it seems like if we look historically, people kind of decided no. Or more accurately, for the sake of political expediency, they were just kind of left behind. And this is like historically always been the case for a lot of social issues. not just feminism, but where underrepresented minorities in the group are just kind of left behind in terms of the advancement of the rest of the group. So
Mm-hmm.
a lot of this focuses on a white middle class perception of womanhood that was used to kind of create this like lowest common denominator of what a feminist should be. And that group was kind of lauded and like it was used as the model by which people argued for equality. And so if you use this group as a model, that's not reflective of like the rest of the majority of your base there, then you have these successive waves, like the first, second, third wave, which is the third wave we're in now, of movements that just have to keep expanding their base because the base issues are not tackled, and they're not like fully addressed if you just kind of leave them at like oh well, white women have slightly better standing now, so maybe now at some point we can focus on women of color, and then poor women, and then trans women, and that's just like not a way to run a movement, because then you get decades down the line like we have now where we still have so many issues that are not being addressed.
And so from what I gather from this, because I obviously didn't write this, but the idea of at least the second wave of feminism was to get, correct me if I'm wrong, but to get like the modern American housewife out of the house and allowing her to embrace an active life and embrace a life of, being involved in society more so than just, going grocery shopping and take care of the kids. And that's kind of like, in a sense, it's a luxury that they can have because those women were at least middle class, if not, in the higher end of the salary and basically rich. Let's just say that. And now it's like it puts a wrench into the claims to feminism. I don't know if that's the right word, but the access to that movement of feminism to people who are like single mothers, people from minorities who have to work full time, regardless of what, it's like. And there's this the stigma where it's like, oh my God, like this woman is abandoning their kids. And you realize that, well, she has to work to sustain herself, to sustain her kids. She's actually doing like the right thing in that sense where it's like, she has to do all these things to just survive. And that wave of feminism didn't necessarily like embrace that. And now you brought up, well, your column is about trans people and how they're also not being necessarily like integrated into the movement. So you mentioned trans people, I guess trans women, you mentioned women of color. Do you feel like that's like more of an actuality now?
In terms of like that
people are trying to integrate them. Yes.
Oh, I mean,
more so than 40 years
there's
ago.
definitely
at
still
least.
tension.
Okay.
I think between minority groups and like the broader name of feminism,
Yeah.
where you have, I feel like the tension is most evident with just the broader movement of feminism and feminists who are people of color as well, because you see a lot of like these modern movements, like the Women's March that took place after the election. Some people said that they abstained because they felt as though, like, let's say a black woman was not equally represented in the feminist issue and like feminist agenda, that sounds so propaganda-y. But like the issues that feminists generally propagate in mainstream media, they felt as though these issues were not representative of them, that these still continue to propagate a particular image of womanhood and feminism and victimhood in terms of like gender-based oppression. So there's definitely still tension there. And I feel like after this most recent election, you kind of see it more, where you see a lot of, like if you look at the stats, you see a lot of black women kind of carrying Democratic candidates through things. And so you see like, here are these issues that we're fighting for, yet you see a lot of white women who are still going against like the broader, like more leftist, more people of color friendly movements. And there's still that kind of tension with the broader mainstream population and people of color. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, and there was this the special election in Alabama a month ago, maybe.
Example.
Yeah, and that's exactly what you said. The turnout was like over 90% of black women that basically carried. What's his name? Warren Moore. That's the Democratic candidate, right?
No, Roy Moore was the Republican.
Oh, never mind.
Doug something?
Doug Jones.
Doug
Doug Jones was the
Jones.
Democratic
Yeah.
candidate. So they carried Doug Jones to
Yeah.
being elected, basically,
Yeah.
and then women like voted for him.
White women voted for
White
Roy Moore.
women,
Like it
like,
was still
it was
something.
like
It wasn't
50
too much. I think it was something like 54%
yeah.
of white women voted for Roy Moore.
But
Even though
that's
it was like a creep.
that's saying, you know, like that they all voted for someone who was
Yeah.
definitely sexist, misogynistic,
Mhm.
racist, xenophobic, whatever you want,
Yeah.
whatever label you want to put on that guy, you can put it. He was not convicted, but at least accused by a bunch of women of sexual assault too. Anyways, like just
Young
a terrible
woman.
human being.
Yeah, absolute
he
trash,
seemed like
yet
one
he's
at
still
least.
competitive.
Exactly, and white women still voted
Yeah.
for him at like
And you saw
a
like
50% clip at least.
all of the news coverage for like the 2 weeks leading up to this election was, oh my God, everyone on both sides need to pander to black people because they were like the deciding vote in terms of like, because it was pretty much decided. They did a lot of polls for a lot of white people. Like white women were kind of more towards Roy Moore for some reason. But the
Because it's
black
Alabama.
because it's Alabama, white people are going for whoever, I guess, that has an R next to his name.
Whoever the Republican is, kind of that is, and
But yeah, that's a perfect example of like a lot of like culturally based tension that you have between just the broader white population, be it feminism or just any political type of ideology, where minority groups don't feel as though they're represented in these groups, but they're still fighting for them. And so it's just like, here we are holding your hand through this. And then like when you get to the prize, you're like, oh, you? Never met you. Sorry. Because they don't like have funding or something.
it's kind of like the idea of having like a token.
Yeah.
That's a little bit maybe exaggerated, but it's the idea of having like a token like person of color, or token person of a minority, or token person of, you know, the LGBTQ community being like, we're all together in this, and then whatever happens comes out of it.
And then like only like the most successful get more successful, and then everyone else is like, oh.
And it eventually will just, you know, favor white women, or it will favor them more than women of color or women from the LGBTQ plus community.
My favorite moment of that election though was when Roy Moore had his like wife come out and say like, he's not racist. We have a Jewish lawyer. What are you talking about? We're not anti-Semitic. That was my favorite thing.
I have a black friend.
We have black people in our house all the time. Like, we're not racist. And then I'm not anti-Semitic. My lawyer is Jewish. That sounds like a joke. That sounds like an actual anti-Semitic joke worked into conversation. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's like a stereotype that
Yeah.
like lawyers or like rich financials are Jewish, and it's like,
There's
at least one of them
couldn't think
around
of one
me.
other Jew other than their stereotypical lawyer
Yeah.
who was like, my Jew friend, look, or like during the Trump election like campaign, he's like, oh, look at my black friend over there.
Yeah.
That was my favorite
It's like, just because it's one black guy in the audience
Yeah.
doesn't mean the black community like supports you.
Yeah, I remember I used to always laugh when I'd see like screen caps of his rallies and people would like pan over it and it'd be like millions of white faces. Not millions because he doesn't get crowds that big, you know, but hundreds of thousands of white people, and then there's like 3 black guys going like, yeah.
Yeah, and it's like obviously the camera's gonna like focus on that, like
Yeah.
because the thing
We're
is gonna
diverse.
be, the thing is gonna be like retransmitted on Fox News or something like
Yeah.
that. It's like suddenly it's like, no, that's not what the movement, that's not what the idea is all about.
Yeah, it's not the people that represent the base.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's kind of the same idea, like the women march, and then they had like a black women only march, right? There was something like that.
Did they?
Am I getting that wrong? I think they
I
did.
didn't hear about that. I don't know.
Don't quote me on that. I'm not sure, but that's kind of the idea. It's like imagining like a march where like 90% are white, and then there's like that one group of black women that are also there in support, and it's like you can like focus on them however much you want, but at the same time, it's like how much of whatever result there will be are they gonna benefit from, you know? And that's definitely a problem, and it's also the idea that to try to move forward, to try to take small steps or even big steps, you have to pander to like a majority, and the majority is still not necessarily the majority in number, but the majority in influence is still in that sense, at least in the feminist movement, is still white women, and you can still see that in like Hollywood also and stuff like that. Even though like they're, you know, slowly starting to come out and stuff like that, you still see so much of a discrepancy between white women and black women, and I don't know about like salaries and all that, but I'm sure there's like something there too. And it was something really interesting. at the Golden Globes the other day. I don't remember which actor, but there was a black actor that won an award. I'm sorry, I don't remember his name.
No. I remember. I don't remember his name either.
Yeah, but he like came out and said like, "Thank you for making a role that is like tailored to me, that tells my story as a black person." And it's like so often you see those movements or movies through the eye of that white, I guess.
How many movies had Will Ferrell been written for?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's like.
Yeah. You never get Idris Elba. Like, we wrote this just for Idris Elba.
Yeah.
It's always, we wrote this for Adam Sandler.
Yeah, kind of.
Yeah.
And it's like, suddenly it was like a nice reminder that, like, it is possible. It's probably going to take a lot of time still because you're just taking little steps at a time. But the movement would definitely, like, benefit from being more inclusive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because, I mean, in the long run, it helps because it, like, rallies your base as well. Like, if people continue to think that they're not represented by the movement, then people are going to become like disenthused and they're not going to come out and support it.
It's like, if we stand for women, then let's stand for all of them.
Yeah.
And not just that,
Yeah.
Anything else?
Do we want to go through the world front window?
Oh yeah, let's do that. Let's try not to get on a tangent this time.
I don't know where my... Oh, there it is. Oh, it's also about weed. This is actually very dangerously close to becoming an all-weed issue in terms of, like, content that I was thinking of. It was super close. And so with this world front window, it could have been, like, a solid weed issue, which would have been fine with me.
Who's that supposed to be? I'm kind of confused.
That's supposed to be not Roy Moore.
No, Jeff Sessions?
Jeff Sessions and some random little girl who looks very pissy.
So Jeff Sessions has come out against weed legalization and is, like, pushing for it to be rolled back, basically.
So he walked back like Obama era regulations that said like you can have like a laissez-faire type of approach to policing weed in states where it's like legal, and Jeff was like, I don't know about all that. So this is what the comic is talking about here. It's Jeff talking to some little girl, and he goes, "You see, little girl, that weed is bad for you and no one should be exposed." And this little girl is saying, "It helps with my chemotherapy. Why would you think it's bad for anyone?" I mean, we covered it in the main where, like, what about people with like medicinal issues, like getting caught with this? Like, yes, it's easy to get a med card, but also it's kind of tedious to get a med card. What if you just smoke weed because you have anxiety and you can't get it diagnosed? What if you just smoke weed because you're a cool kid?
It's also such a double standard because for the longest time, there's been like lobbies, and I guess they're better like that for like now, but in the past, before any laws were passed, I think in the 1970s, there was such a big lobby going on for the tobacco companies with the government, and suddenly it was like, oh, tobacco is good, tobacco is okay, and everything, and they needed like several like scientific studies and like a lot of I guess counter lobbying, and it took decades to convince people that actually no, it causes cancer. And suddenly it's like, and this is. I get the argument that maybe weed isn't like the best thing for some people. It can maybe like put you in a state of impairment that
there's like an increase in DUIs when weed gets legalized in states,
and that's fair. But at the same time, it's like so ban alcohol.
But how many lives have been destroyed because of some like bullshit war on drugs? And a lot of these people are
that's
selling weed.
And then there's another problem to that, and that's like a wrinkle that we won't necessarily get into, but what happens to all the people that were incriminated because of weed-related issues?
As far as you can't like just prosecute them.
No, that's true.
Yeah, so there's no like retroactive thing, so they'd have to be pardoned. Guess who's not going to pardon them? Yeah. Obama tried, and then I think everyone just ripped him a new asshole.
But like
so I don't know if that actually happened.
That's a new thing. That's another thing. But I mean, at least medical marijuana. I'm not necessarily pro weed and all this, but at the same time, like, if it helps with some people's, you are.
Yeah, I think it's silly that it's not.
I kind of feel like I'm not the one to like tell anybody to like do whatever, like don't do this.
Yeah.
So it's like everybody just do whatever you want. I don't really care.
Except meth. Maybe stay away from meth.
Just stay away from hard drugs in general.
Yeah. Anything addictive.
And just be careful to not drink and drive or smoke and drive, and whatever. But it's like if it helps you deal with anxiety, if it helps you deal with
And I have anxiety
PTSD.
on the freeway, so
That's a bad example. With PTSD or with any of those like stress, anxiety related issues, then yeah, sure.
yeah.
Whatever makes you feel better.
Yeah.
It's not like we have like
Smoke
a.
doobie,
It's
bro.
not like we have a pill.
Yeah,
like,
we don't have a D mood disorder pill. We have some drugs,
No,
but
that's
those
that's
are like
not what
harder
I.
drugs.
That's not what I meant. I wanted to say like it's not like we have a problem with like pills in the United States, anyways.
Oh,
Right?
yeah. But those are different because they're painkillers, and those are totally fine because they're prescribed by a doctor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So much better.
Yeah.
So much better than weed.
Yeah.
So much less dangerous. You know, you can't get addicted. You can't get. Yeah. That's okay. And those are totally legal. You know.
Yeah, totally legal.
Have been for a while.
If I steal a script, at least it's still a doctor's script. Like, I don't mind. I think
So that's the
it's still
thing. There's like double standards in literally every corner of the question, and
Yeah.
it's just really frustrating. So just chill,
legal.
basically.
We need these people who are like anti-weed to just fucking smoke a joint. Calm the fuck down. Chill out, dude.
Or just do whatever you want. If someone smokes, just don't bother them. And if you
Instead
don't
of
want
the
to smoke,
pursuit
just
of
don't
life,
smoke.
liberty, and happiness. It should be the pursuit of puff, puff, and pass. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Snoop Dogg should be our next president, I think.
I think that's a good point.
Martha Stewart can be vice president.
Yeah. Okay.
Maybe switch that. I feel like Snoop Dogg.
I think
would be
that's a
better
good
vice
that's a
president.
good point of the podcast. We need to stop right now. That's
Republican
that's
make a
all
great
we.
president. Okay, well that's
don't.
the end of
I don't.
Unhinged.
That's the end of our podcast for this week.
Thanks again for tuning in.
Yes, and we'll be back next week.
See you then.